going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. This is The Mental Breakdown. I'm your host, Joey Velez. Happy Monday. Happy Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to all those who have served, who are currently serving. I think a lot of what they do goes unnoticed, and a lot of us don't realize, what those individuals sacrifice to protect our freedom. So I think this is a day to kind of celebrate those people who do and who have done serve for this country. So happy Memorial Day, everybody. Enjoy your hot dogs and hamburgers and your freedom for that matter. Which is one thing I'm grateful for. I've had a lot of family members who have served. Some longer than others. My grandpa served in World War II. He was at Pearl Harbor. My dad served in the Navy as well. He was in Vietnam, and then I've had many cousins do the same, and then not to mention that I've been working with the military for the last 5 years. So something I'm always grateful for is what all those individuals go through in their day-to-day lives and what they've sacrificed to protect our freedom. So that's one thing I'm definitely grateful for is those individuals and that the fact I get to work with them every day. It's eye-opening and it's a very fun occupation that I currently have. So I remember listening to a podcast and it talked about the difference between being a thermostat and being a thermometer. Okay, so if we're looking at a thermostat, what does that do? A thermostat is something that sets the temperature, right? If it's a hot summer day and I want my house to be colder, I'm gonna go to my thermostat and set it for a cold temperature. If we're in the wintertime, it's kind of freezing outside, then I want my house to be warm, we'll go to the thermostat and set a warmer temperature. So what a thermostat really does, it adjusts to what we want, what we need in that moment for us to feel our best selves, right? But then if we're looking at a thermometer, what the thermometer does, it just checks the temperature. It identifies what the current climate is, what the current state is. I can't make any adjustments necessarily, but it's just telling me, hey, here's how warm, here's how cold it actually is. And I think when you're looking at this idea between a thermostat and a thermometer, it reminds me about ourselves and our energy activation that we need to perform our best at all times. So, what's our emotions like? What's our physiology like? And where is our attention at in order for us to maximize our performance, maximize our training? And if you look at a thermostat, that is kind of like our activation levels. Like, what do we need? What is required for us to perform at our best? Right, so maybe our thermostat is where we set the temperature we want, right? If I notice that I'm maybe a little bit more lethargic or maybe a little bit too amped up, well, maybe I need to make some changes kind of get me to where I need to be in those moments. So I think that's where the thermostat comes into play. So we need to be a thermostat in order for us to know where we're at, in order for us to make those adjustments so I can feel my absolute best self. However, if you notice, within that, I need to know where I'm at in order to make those changes. So, yes, we want to be a thermostat and make those changes to what we're feeling, but you also want to be a thermometer in times because in order for you to make the required changes, you have to know where you're at, right? Because what a thermometer does is it helps build self-awareness of where I'm currently in that specific moment. Right. So if I'm noticing that I'm too amped up heading into performance, I need that self-awareness to know that I'm too amped up, but then I need to make those necessary adjustments to kind of amp me back down just a little bit for myself to perform my best. Not everybody functions at the same temperature, right? So just because I feel like I'm too amped up and need to lower the temperature, some people work well off of more temperature. So I think one is about understanding what you need in those given moments, but then I think it's about when I notice that I need to adjust my thermostat, what do I do? Right. So I think one is setting routines, and I think this is what sets the temperature for that specific performance. So whether it's something you do before your training, before your performance to get yourself ready, whether it's something you do during to kind of handle adversity or handle those in-game moments that may take you outside of your optimal zone of performing, or maybe it's something you do after to kind of help you decompress and amp back down so you can get ready for the next thing. So that's where the importance of routines comes in. So maybe, for example, what I tend to do when I golf is before I take every swing, I take two practice swings. Okay, I step behind my ball, I look at where I want to hit it, I pick a point 1 to 2 inches in front of my ball that I'm going to use as my aim point, and then I take a big deep breath and tell myself smooth and steady. Or what that does is it gets me ready to go hit that next ball, being the absolute best part of myself in that given moment. And it may only take 10, 15 seconds to do. Right. But then once that shot takes place, as I'm walking down my next ball, I'm identifying, okay, what did I do wrong? How do I fix it? Or what did I do well? What do I make sure I do for this next shot? And then I begin to set up what I want to do going into that next shot. Right. So those become some examples of routines that kind of help me set the temperature for each of those given performance. Now, in order to measure the temperature, in order to be more of a thermometer, I think that's where self-reflection comes in. This can be done through any sort of like journaling, right? So asking yourself what went well, what didn't go well, how do I make the improvements, how do I continue to do those improvements, what do I want to do next time to help set me up for success, right? How do I know when I'm too amped up heading into performance? How do I know when I'm not amped up enough heading into performance? How do I know when I'm mid game? How do I know when I lose that sort of maximal ability? And what do I need to do to make those adjustments? So, beginning to journal and self reflect on those specific experiences, but even asking yourself questions about when I'm performing my best, what's happening? When I'm not performing my best, what's happening? What's my emotions doing? What's my physiology like? Where is my attention at? Because I think in order for us to set the proper temperature, we have to know what's going on, right? So yes, you want to be a thermostat, but you also want to be a thermometer, right? So when you perform, you want to be that thermostat, right? Help you set the temperature of where you want to be, but then you also have to make sure you're that thermometer because that sometimes you need to identify where your current temperature is at in order for me to make the necessary adjustments that I need. Okay? And that's what I have for you all today. Okay, so yes, be a thermostat, but yes, you also want to be a thermometer as well. So set the temperature you want, but also being able to measure, okay, where am I currently at and what adjustments do I need to make? All right, so thank you all for your time. Have a good rest of your Monday. Have a good week upcoming. And don't forget, today is a great day to make an impact. All right, y'all. Have a good one. We'll talk soon.